Shir Alleluia. Havana Shira, 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 Shir Alleluia.
Good morning. Our opening words today are from Reverend Teresa Ines Soto. They asked me what was good twice in a row, and I could feel my face drop into the cobra pose, up, out, and very still and straining to hold. Composure in a rain of ashes, in a sky the color of rust and blood. Beneath the weight of isolation and grief, loneliness and loss. What is good is sometimes beyond the limit of what can now be felt and remembered. And while there may be other gifts, both small and large, none of them can compare to the incantation of perfect science and calculation of flawless magic. That is today. We are alive and that we have right here, this very moment. I light this chalice to remind us of the light of this community, of the love that holds us all, and of our deep interconnectedness. So good morning. I'm here to talk to you about the not completely unexpected, but nonetheless very sad passing of the Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I heard the news like you did Friday night and felt that deep, deep pain and loss. But I realized it's twofold. There's a loss of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or RBG, the person, and the loss of what she represented. So I want to talk about each a little separately. First, her as a person. I just want to memorialize her just a tiny bit. I want to honor who she was as a human. And right now, the only way I know to do that is with poetry. So I offer you this poem by May Sarton, and it's called Now Voyager. Now Voyager, lay here your dappled head. Come back to earth from air. Be nourished, not with that light on light, but with this bread. Here close to earth be cherished, mortal heart. Hold your way deep as roots push roots apart, to bring the spurt of green up from the dark. Where music thundered, let the mind be still. Where the will triumphed, let there be no will. What light revealed, let the dark fulfill. Here, let the fiery burden be spilled. The passionate voice at last be calmed and stilled, and the yearning of the blood fulfilled. Now, Voyager, come home to rest. Here on the long-lost countries of Earth breast. Lay down the fiery vision and be blessed, be blessed. And as the now late RBG is in rest, we pick up the fight. We continue the fight. And as I say to you again and again, all of us require all of us to save us. So while I'm with you understanding what her death at this time means, my response is that we fight harder and we carry on her legacy. I know the pain won't go away quickly, and I know the fear persists. But I feel that we owe her no less than that. Blessed be. I invite you to enter into a time of meditation with me. Get comfortable, put your feet on the ground, perhaps take a deep breath and let it out. Do that till you feel grounded. It would be easy in a world filled with brokenness and sorrow to lose ourselves in a sort of never-ending grief, to be choked by our outrage, to be paralyzed by the enormity of suffering, and to feel our hearts squeezed tight with hopelessness. Instead, this morning, let us breathe together as we hold our hearts open. Breathing in as we fill with compassion. Breathing out as we pray for peace in the world and in our lives. May we know the strength to be filled with courage, and may love flow from us into the world. Breathing in were the prayer. Breathing out were the healing. Breathing in were the love. Breathing out were the peace. Breathing in were the hope. And breathing out were the justice. May we know our strength. May we be filled with courage. May our love flow from us into this world. Amen. Blessed be, and may it ever be so. So, acknowledging that this is a really unusual start to one of my sermons, I want to talk about zombies. I've never been a fan of zombies, not in movies, not in books, not on television. I don't like the idea of some perpetual yet disconnected being, driven by impulse rather than by reflective thought, hungry for the literal blood of others, violent without purpose or control, and generally living a fairly unhappy existence. And then COVID arrived, and I wondered, and I know I'm not alone here, if the zombie apocalypse had arrived as well. Life slowed to a crawl in many respects. No more gathering with friends, no more movies, no plays, no music, no going to a store just because I might want something, no more mindless activity, or a whole lot less of it anyways. The lockdown for some of us actually meant more work, but not only. Some of us began to Zoom each week with families or long-lost friends. We found ways to reignite connections that we had long since let linger. Old friends wrote and talked. Parents and adult children, or maybe even multiple generations, were suddenly cohabitating again. We got to know ourselves, we got to know our partners, we got to know our families a whole lot better. And some of us that did have time on our hands, we baked and we cooked, we spent more time reading or learning what had long since interested us. And parents, or sometimes grandparents, got a whole lot of unexpected time with their grandchildren. And we vacillated. We vacillated between railing against and finding moments of joy in this pattern so unlike anything we had ever known. But it wasn't entirely bad, because all of this has created space for new patterns and new truths to emerge. It's taught us all sorts of things about ourselves, about how we respond to the unknown, to reflect on how our actions impact others, how we find sustenance and relief from isolation and fear. That spiritual practice is now part of who we are. It's a life skill we'll carry forward long after the pandemic is actually in the rearview mirror, which is a really good thing since there are, by some reports, yet more signs of a zombie apocalypse. And by that, I mean that our world is in real danger of losing its mooring entirely. That what we know, that the safety of what some of us have experienced and the safety that many have not, is changing. And there are moments where I think that might be so. But, and this is an important caveat, We're not there yet. You in your day-to-day life, all of us, we impact where this goes. It's easy to believe in this time of so much shift that we're not in control anymore, that the train of horrors cannot be stopped. But it can. At least I believe that so. One of the weird COVID benefits is that it's a warp speed reminder of what matters. Family, friends, love, justice, simplicity, and connection. And more than a few of you have commented to me that this time has been life-altering for you, that you've changed your priorities, that you've learned about yourself, or you realized where life is calling you. And I've talked a lot about how COVID or coronavirus is changing our society, but it's changing every one of us too. Politics aside for a moment. Sorry, I lost my place. It wasn't until life slowed, until work couldn't, for many, be all-consuming, until we had the time and the tangible reminders that our work roles are not all of who we are, that we actually began to envision something else. And what I realized in there is part of that is capitalism lost some of its hold on us. And politics aside for a moment, our system from the time of the Industrial Revolution and probably earlier was created to maximize human output, not to support family structures or racial or socioeconomic equality or the environment, none of that. So it makes sense that it was only when the machine stopped, when everything slowed so dramatically, that we noticed that there's another way to live. And this pandemic is horrible. It's wrought so much damage, death and job loss, food insecurity, economic impact, the list goes on, and we would never wish for this in a million years. And yet the gifts of the moment remain. The truth has been uncovered and the genie won't go back in the bottle. And that's a good thing. We realized, a lot of us, that not having to go somewhere to work had certain gifts. Patterns have shifted for us all and priorities have shifted for many. We've recognized the disproportionate impact of COVID on those already most marginalized. And in response, many of us became and have remained part of the uprising to stem the tide of systemic racism. And these are huge, unimaginable steps forward. Pause for a moment and take that in. This is some of the progress we've been waiting for so long. And more remains at our door. There is an undeniable slide into fascism happening. And even if we're in denial about it, it's no longer the conversation of a few radicals. It's a real possibility, one that's evident as the militia are freer to act without any fear of retribution, and in fact, sometimes with the kudos of the administration. And if that weren't enough, there's a real and undeniable truth around climate change that we see, even if we've been able to ignore it, because it's been in other parts of the world. It's here, from unquenchable fires to massive hurricanes, droughts and floods. There's no question that this is a massive threat. So when I texted a sibling this week to ask her how she was doing, she texted back, fire, plague, homeschooling, the end times? Because I'm pretty sure that she too has that feeling of, is this the zombie apocalypse? The how much worse can it get fear that ruins our sleep a lot of nights. I don't know what's going to happen. None of us do. But what's clear to me and what gives me hope is that we're paying attention, even with mail-in ballots, with polling places a risk for COVID. I stopped by to vote and business was brisk a few weeks ago. Civic engagement is up. We're not just watching the elections, we're participating in them, supporting candidates and reform. Engagement is up. There's many well-attended opportunities online to do the work of anti-racism. There's good support for those returning to school and those teaching them. All of that is under deep consideration. Participation is up. And the list continues. So here's what I see. It's a hurting world, to be sure. Gratefully, though, more and more every day, more of us are choosing the path of action. What's my part, we ask, in the changes needed? So zombies, beloveds, they can't thrive here. Zombies need dead brains to feed on, and your brains are wired for action. So keep doing the good work, the great work of fighting for this, our shared world. I'm right there with you. Blessed be.
Winds be still, storm clouds pass and silence come. Peace grace this time with harmony. Fly, bird of hope, and shine, light of love, and in calm let all find tranquility. Bird fly high, lift our gaze toward distant view, help us to sense life's mystery. Fly high and far, and lead us each to see how we move through the winds of eternity. Light shining, illuminate our inward view, help us to see with clarity. Shine bright and true, so we may join our songs in your sounds that become full symphony.
I extinguish this chalice, this flame, but not its light, the light we take with us out into the world, sharing with those we encounter on our journey. Our closing words today are the poem Star Breath by Joyce Rupp. With the first sight of the evening star, my heart responds to a distant touch, a wisp of recognition, a waft of joy. Life-giving breath of the galaxies sails through the heavens into my grasping, yearning spirit, uniting me in the morrow of my soul. Star breath washes over me, like God breath, filling the soul of a new creation, awakening my soul's withered bones, lifting them into lightness and dance. I open my small, isolated self to the stars, and am once again healed of my disparity, the falsehood of a separate identity.
Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Carry the flame of peace and love until